15 years, the damage that load shedding has brought to this economy has been incalculable.
The death toll from the recent floods in the South African province of KwaZulu-Natal has risen to 49.
After a fairly subdued night, the Knysna fires have begun to grow again.
We begin tonight with a nation already on edge in the coronavirus pandemic as protests turn violent.
London's burning and no one seems able to bring it under control.
You're listening to Off-Grid Survival, South Africa's first prepper podcast.
And we are your hosts, Brett and Ben.
Good morning, Ben. Welcome back to episode 8. How you doing?
Well, I'm good, and good morning to you on this fine wintry morning.
It is chilly, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is
definitely
really cold at the moment. So Spotify has done some new updates to the way things work, and they now allow us to reply to listener comments. So I'm going to encourage everybody, please go leave a comment on Spotify and we will do our best to get back to you in a timely manner.
Yeah, it'll probably be quite nice now because then our listeners won't think our commenters won't think we're ignoring them because before we just weren't able to reply.
It was a problem, yeah. That's why we've been using Facebook and Instagram and those other platforms, but it'll be nice now with Spotify. I do believe that they have actually got people that are going through every comment that is posted, and I don't know how they're going to do that with thousands and thousands of podcasts. So it might take a while before you see a response, but yeah, let's see how it goes. And I'm looking forward to being able to respond to people. So I know there were people that have sent us messages in the past, in the last 3 months, and I'll be going through those, and where I can, I'll be responding to them.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Then last week or 2 weeks ago, we did the Food Socks episode. I had so much fun going and meeting those guys. And since then, we've had a chance to actually make some of their products, you and I, in our own individual capacities. And I took the opportunity to make the soup.
What flavor?
It's a chicken soup.
Okay.
I was pleasantly surprised. It made a very nice soup.
Did it taste like chicken?
It does have a chicken flavor, yeah.
Oh,
which is really cool. And it wasn't a thin soup.
Yes.
It got thickness to it. It's got body to it, if I can put it that way. I really enjoyed it. For something that I literally threw a packet into a pot, added 2 liters of water, left it to boil for half an hour, and came back, and yeah, it was really good. I was very happy with that. For 45 Rand, I'll definitely be buying more of those.
Yes. Yeah, I got the milk course, and it was lovely. I added more water than they recommended because I wanted to go for a consistency. And then I also, a few days later, I tried the mutton stew one. And again, I boiled you're supposed to boil the beans and whatever else till they're soft. I ran out of patience. But I did throw the bean water that was boiling out and then put new water in. And I don't like split peas. So I had to get rid of the flavor of the split peas getting soft. So I don't like peas at all. And then, made the whole thing. It came out really nicely. It doesn't taste like mutton on the braai.
Okay.
It does taste a little like mutton. I tried it without anything in additives, but I did find that taking some schmaltz that I had it's got onions and bacon in it, adding it to it, and also like a Thai hot sauce, which was sweet. I just added it on my plate and just mix it in cold. And for me, it definitely lacked the animal fat. But then again, I'm a meat eater, so I needed that part of, that lubrication.
Did your family try it?
Oh, yeah. They all ate of it.
And what did the kids think?
I didn't ask them specifically because I didn't want to draw attention to something because they're kind of fussy eaters.
Okay.
So I'd rather let them just, if they know they're going to be trying something, you're more likely not have a good response.
Okay, that's awesome. Then I was going through my stores and seeing what's been there for a while and what needs to be cycled out and that sort of thing. And about a year ago, I started doing my dehydrating with my big dehydrator. And I decided that, let's see a year on what it'll be like to actually use some of those dehydrated veggies that I made. And
what were they?
So I made a soup again because soup is just you just throw everything in a pot and it's cold and soup is nice. So I had dried corn, dried carrots, some dried spinach, dried green beans, and then I had a packet of dried mushrooms, which I did grind down, chuck them in the blender and powdered them a bit because I've been told that dried mushrooms don't reconstitute that nicely. They tend to stay a bit rubbery. But if you want that nice mushroomy umami flavor, if you can get it into almost a powder form, you still keep the flavor and the nutrients, but it doesn't feel like you're chewing rubber.
Yes.
So I chucked all of that into a pot together with 4 liters of water, added half a cup of your standard soup mix with the split peas and the lentils and the barley. I know you don't like that. The eye roll there said it all. And then I went to town with the spices.
Yes.
Bit of rosemary, bit of basil, bit of oregano, some nutritional yeast, smoked paprika, and I didn't use any mixed spices like any Robertson's type spices.
Yes.
I used all individual spices that I had. Chucked that all in the pot, and after about half an hour, checked it out. The veggies had reconstituted nicely. I was really surprised. The corn had plumped up, the carrots had plumped up. The other veggies were more almost in a powdery form, so they had gone into the flavor. The soup had gone quite a dark brown, and when I tasted it, it was sweet, which really surprised me. At that point, I hadn't added any salt.
Yes.
So I added a spoonful of salt just to bring out the flavor, and that made a big difference. But the sweet is what threw me. And I'm kind of thinking that maybe through the dehydrating process, the sugars,
the starches
have changed. And I was quite surprised to have that sweet flavor.
The carrots are pretty sweet
and so is corn.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I made a bit of an oopsie in that I had a heavy hand with some black pepper. So it had a bit of spice to it. But overall, yeah, it was a really filling, nice, nutritious soup. I've still got more for today because it's cold weather again. So we'll try some later. But yeah, I think using your own stores and testing your stores and trying out different recipes is an important part of learning to prep.
Yes. You don't use the don't look, don't touch types of thing. You need to touch, you need to go through the stuff and use it. Because it's better to find out now you don't like that mix or that's not the preferred way of preserving.
That's it,
before you need to know these things.
So my next thing that I want to try is do a bully beef stew. I haven't made one of those in many years. So I'll, again, using the dehydrated veggies and a can of bully beef, obviously not so much water, but actually try and make something and see if the wife will eat it this time.
Well, bully beef also makes a nice addition to your soup because it adds your fats in.
Your fats, yeah.
And your meat in. And I've cubed bully beef and fried it in some butter or even in its own fat. And then I left some in my pot and then added water and just cooked it down into a broth. And especially if you're out about when it's cold, having a nice warm meaty drink is awesome.
Yeah. So I've done something my dad used to do is take the bully beef and make almost centimeter thick slices with it and then batter it and then deep fry or fry that in the batter. And then you get that nice crispy, almost like sweet and sour chicken type batter going.
I've done it before.
Just make sure you drain the oil properly because otherwise it's just a greasy mess.
What you do is if you cut it into those slabs and then you cut it again, so you make chips. You can batter it a bit and you deep fry it.
Ooh, that
and you make carnivore chips. So all meat chips.
That one I need to try. I need to try that one.
Oh, it's nice. I've done it for some people who don't particularly like bully beef and they enjoyed it.
Cool. And then the last thing is that we are members of the South African Podcast Guild and we have recently been added to their pod list. So if you go to South African Podcast Guild.co.za/pod list, you can see all the South African podcasts that are part of the South African Podcasters Guild. It is really good. Go support other South African creators.
Yes.
There's some really interesting stuff on there. And yes, we're on the list as well. So awesome.
That's wonderful.
Okay, so today I thought we would talk about preparedness and the great South African staple, load shedding. So we've all lived through load shedding since around about, I think it was 2012. Surprisingly, this year there hasn't been that much, touch wood, but there's different levels to load shedding and there's different levels to preparedness.
Yes.
So you've come up with a bit of a scale, a 1 to 5 scale on how load shedding or how we can be prepared for different scenarios during load shedding.
Yeah, I was, based on our conversations, the first thing we had to do was, in working out a grading system, was find a definition.
Yeah.
So what we've got is grade 0 is zero planning.
Yeah. So the guy that's got like absolutely jack.
Exactly. And grade 1 is minimal planning. Grade 2, basic planning. Grade 3, a lot of thought as in a beginner prepper.
Okay.
4 would be not quite Fallout ready.
Okay.
The game Fallout.
yeah.
And then 5, zombie or South African proof. So
okay,
you can survive
pretty
South
much anything.
Africa.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I like that.
So, when applying that grading system and that basic definition to load shedding, what are the things that are affected in load shedding? You're talking about lighting, power, your ability to cook, your ability to heat. How does that affect you?
Okay.
And so as we look at it, say for argument's sake, lighting, it's grade 0 is darkness, my old friend.
Yeah, no. So what you're saying is that because you're zero planning, you don't have anything.
Yeah.
The lights go out and you sit in the dark.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
And so minimal planning there would be, I have some candles and some matches. So it's not the safest option, but it is some planning. A lot of people have done it through camping and stuff, so they're used to it. And level 2 is basically torches.
Okay, so like pretty much, I think everybody nowadays has at least got a torch.
Oh, they got a torch on the cell phone.
Oh, well, yeah, of course, cell phones, yeah.
And then grade 3, say rechargeable lighting or gas lamps, rechargeable lamps.
Okay.
Grade 4 would be full access while a generator is running, and grade 5 would be like a full solar system, so everything runs. And that comes to your power side, it draws from your power side, where grade 5 in power is also, you've got your full solar system, it runs everything.
Yeah. The thing is, so many people in South Africa have now got full solar systems, and yet they're not prepared. So the solar system is helping them ignore load shedding, if I can put it that way. But from a preparedness point of view, with other things that come into prepping, they've got no clue.
But then apply the grading system to food, to sanitation, to water, to first aid. That's where you start looking at how prepared are you. You might be jacked, like super ESCOM independent in power, and yet you messed when it comes to food or water.
Yeah, it's pointless from a long-term point of view having an awesome solar system, but you've got a day's worth of food in the cupboard.
And no water tanks, no way to do water.
Okay, I get that. Cool. Then I would like to go back to like your level 3, so like rechargeable lighting, gas lamps, rechargeable lamps. There's so many of those products on the market nowadays. With gas lamps, for instance, you've got your good old KDAC or Elva bottles, and then you can just get a camping lamp that goes on top of that. You even get them with extendable arms, so they can make them higher.
Well, I was looking at that as a rechargeable option. So if you get a 5 liter or 5 kg gas, you can recharge it.
Yes.
There comes to a point where if you don't have some of your other systems, or the surrounding area doesn't have some of the systems in place, you cannot recharge that gas bottle because it requires electricity.
Yes.
So all of these, beginner prepper, there's a lot of failure points. But as you go towards like a grade 5, where you're going full solar, you got water purification and tanks, you got a septic system, you got everything you need. I mean, you can really go to where if you're applying this to fuel, that you are producing your own gas through biodigestion and many other things. You're going biodiesel, and you can really go mental with how prepared you are and the stuff you have. But we're applying it to the normal South African experience.
Yeah, so like I said, the normal South African experience. So not a full grid down, there hasn't been power for 6 months scenario. This is a load shedding scenario where it's 2 hours at a time at the best. At the worst, I know there's guys in Gauteng that had 8 hours at a time when load shedding was at level 6 or 7. And we're lucky down here that we didn't get quite that bad. But I remember 4 hours at a time, 3 times a day.
Yes.
So now in a situation like that, something basic like security for your house, your alarm batteries don't have time to recharge.
Yes. Well, that's coming to power then. We were talking about a full solar system. In grade 0 in power is like level 16. They come and blow out your candle. They take the heat out of your coffee, With minimal planning, you got AA and AAA batteries. that can go to whatever devices need them. Basic planning like power banks, most of us have some sort of power bank, and then you could also go a level 3 like the portable inverters like these jackeries and stuff like that.
I recently got one of those. Ironically, I got it because of load shedding, and the week I got it, I don't think we've had load shedding since.
You broke load shedding.
I broke load shedding.
Okay.
I'm glad I should have done it sooner.
Yes, definitely.
I have used it twice where we've had local power outages.
Yeah, on camps as well. That's awesome.
Yes.
Did you get it with the solar panel?
No, I got a 600 watt because that's all I could afford at the moment.
Yeah.
The solar panel, and that cost me, I think it was close to 3,500.
Was it on special?
It was on promo, yeah.
Yeah.
And the solar panel that I can use 120 watt solar panel with it, I think.
Hey, you got the Blue Eddy.
The Blue Eddy, yeah.
Isn't that 150 watt or 200 watt that you can?
Oh, it's 150 watt, I think. Yeah, sorry, not 120 watt.
I've got the Jackery. It's only 100 watt.
Okay, yeah, I can use a slightly bigger panel. That's my next investment, and that's also about $3,000 for the folding panel.
Yes.
And I like the idea of the folding panel and that it's portable.
I cheaped out and I just bought a 100 watt normal solar panel.
Okay.
And it's bulky, but it works.
Yeah.
I couldn't justify at that time $5,000 for a
that's
Jackery one.
Yeah, they're really cool, and they use the standard solar connectors.
No, Jackery is full of beans. You have to have specific connectors. A lot of your EcoFlow, and I think your one as well. Yeah. They have often the XT60 connection or MC4 built in. I had to go and find cables to be able.
Okay, yeah, mine came with adapter cables as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
They're
really great little products. The thing's even got a built-in halogen light.
Yeah.
So you can use it as a spotlight. The only time I've really used it for anything was I ran my laptop on it for 6 hours once.
Yes.
And the other time I had it on overnight just to charge my phone, and I don't even think it used 5% of the power.
Yes.
So I'm really impressed. Like I said, I haven't had to use it much yet. Things about the size of a shoebox. It's awesome. And I think every South African should have something in that vein.
There's a lot of specials on at the moment, especially Blue Eddy and EcoFlow.
Yeah, well, the thing is, now that there's no load shedding, they're sitting with stock. So they're trying to get rid of stock.
Yeah.
So the prices are going down. So keep an eye out for those.
I would recommend if the listeners are going to look at something like that, get the lithium polymer, the LifeBow ones. Their cycles, amount of cycles that they can go through are a lot higher than the lithium one. I still got one of the old lithium Jackeries, and it doesn't have, I think it's got 500 cycles versus 3,000 cycles.
Yeah, mine's got 2,200 cycles.
Yeah. So but I mean, that in the grading system would be like level 3.
Yeah.
And level 4 would be a generator. So you got a generator connected to your house. You're fully independent while the fuel is there.
But that's the thing. You're fuel dependent there, whereas
money dependent while there's money, and fuel dependent while there's fuel.
While there's fuel, yeah. At the price of what's diesel now, 22, 23 rand a litre?
Yeah, that's assuming you're running a diesel Jenny.
Yeah. And I've seen you can get LP gas generators now.
Yeah, again, as well as problem with the gas.
Yes, so with all of these things, it comes down to availability of your fuel supply.
Yes, and even when there were no problems a few years ago, we couldn't get gas for a month or two.
Yeah, there was a gas shortage for a while, yeah.
So, when you're looking at level 5, coming back to full solar system, I know my brother had a system I wouldn't call a full system, but it was to the point where he wanted to buy an induction stovetop just so he could use power during the day. Because he had more power than
overproducing.
So he was actually buying electric kettles and stuff like that, where before we were all using gas.
Okay.
Just so he could use up the excess power in the day.
Okay. Yeah, because it's otherwise just a use it or lose it scenario.
Yeah, it's a wonderful problem to have.
First world problems.
Yeah.
My thing with a generator, though, I'm not a huge fan of generators. I think they make way too much noise. Also, in a longer term scenario, you don't want to necessarily be advertising that you've got power.
Yes. The problem with that as well is a full solar system is visible from a long way away unless you've got it ground mounted.
Well, in that regard, there's so many people have got solar on their roofs now.
Yes.
I'd say in this town, about 20% of the houses have got some sort of form of solar system on their roof.
Yeah.
So it's become one of those things that you just see and you don't even take notice anymore.
Well, with solar, it's also, you have a full solar system, which means you're still connected to the grid. You're not grid tied in like a grid tied inverter. You run your house, but you're still connected to the grid.
Okay.
With all that, you need to go through the proper registering your system, paying the dues where you need to pay it. You need to get a structural engineer to check that your roof can handle the panels. So there's a proper way to do it.
No, it's not a cheap solution.
Yeah. Well, over time, long term,
it pays off. Yeah,
it pays off. When you're looking at like a not full system, like with your Blue Eddy, and you get a solar panel or 2 or 3, or you get a different inverter system that is not self-contained, that you get separate batteries, but in more like an island mode. Okay. So it's completely off-grid mode. It's not connected to the grid at all. Those systems you can make as portable as you want to, and you can set them up where you want to. You can have it that if you're really convinced that you're going to be leaving whenever there's a grid down situation and going to your green pastures somewhere, you need to have that stuff so that you can just load it in your vehicle.
Pack it quickly, yeah.
So, but it also comes down to you need to play with those systems, set it up in your yard, know how long it takes to charge your batteries, what are the best batteries to have for it, and actually cycle it. Make sure that your system functions to what you want.
That reminds me a bit of the movie The Martian, where Mark Watt landed on Mars, and he literally takes the solar panels from the habitat, loads them onto the rover, drives it in the Martian night for as long as the batteries last, and then he sets out the panels during the day to recharge the batteries so he can do the next 10 kilometers or 20 kilometers the next day. It's one of those scenarios where you've got to keep recharging your batteries, and the batteries only have limited lifespans. They only got so many cycles they can be recharged.
And using your system as a UPS puts a lot of microcycles on it, and that's add up and chew into your batteries.
Yeah.
A lot of people want a solar system, but they have no clue how it works. And you can be one of those people, and that's fine. But the best thing is when your system gets installed, chat to the guys. Know what's happening. Understand why things are put where they are.
Yeah.
So that you have an understanding of it in case sometime you need to work on it and you have no technicians you can call.
Yeah.
The ideal is be able to call a technician, but you need to know what are the danger size. Like 48 volt can be really nasty. The guys reckon 24 volts are the last of the not too bad voltages.
Okay.
48 volt can bite you. But 12 volt can start a fire quickly. If you short circuit it can burn through stuff.
Ask anybody that had a Volkswagen Beetle.
And so do your prep mentally as well as the hardware and software you get. You should know how your systems work well enough to be able to do minor repairs if the worst happens.
Yeah, I think that goes for everything with prepping. Whether it's, do you know how to change the oil in your car, to do you know how to change a plug or a light globe? You know, you don't want to have to be able to call a technician for minor things. So if you can do it yourself without causing bigger problems, that's awesome. Yes. So much about prepping is having knowledge and understanding how things work. And look, not everybody's technically minded, but I look at people overseas, especially in like the States and stuff, when it comes to food. How many people don't know how to cook? And it just blows my mind.
Yeah. Well, when there's a convenience always that they can just pop to the stores and buy what they want. You know, you're talking about knowing basic repairs like on your car. A lot of people think they're going to head to the bush if stuff goes bad.
Yeah. But they can't change a tire.
Well, they can't plug a tire. You know, you can only change the tire till your tires run out. So it's a basic system. And most people listening have a dad, a grandfather, an uncle, somebody, even if it's just when you go get your tires changed, sit and chat to the technicians doing the change. So you understand the process.
That's it, yeah.
A lot of people out there will gladly share their knowledge if you're willing to ask.
No, that's awesome. And I think that we need to learn as much as possible, whether it's, like you say, learning how to plug a tire or
change a plug.
Yeah. It's stuff they don't even teach in schools nowadays. Yeah. So much for life orientation.
Well, they do teach accounting in a way a person can actually use it, whereas accounting didn't make sense for me when I was in school.
Oh, no, let's not even go there. Let's see what we've got next year. We have cooking, my favorite subject.
So, level 0.
Soup kitchen.
Please, sir, may I have some more?
Yeah, where there's no electricity and you've got only an electric stove and an electric kettle, you literally can't make anything.
You eat bully beef cold because you can still open the tin.
If you've got.
Yeah, I mean, assuming you have, but we're talking about cooking.
Yeah.
So, I mean, your split pea soup is completely out because there's no ways you're crunching through that. Bully beef's better.
Bully beef's definitely better.
Tinned food, whatever you got in your pantry that is edible cold.
Yeah.
And then level 1, you can use a candle to cook with. It takes a long time, and it's not like you're going to cook a whole pot of food unless you have a lot of candles.
Yeah.
But it's something.
So I've done a exercise where I took an A4 sheet of paper.
Okay.
And a tea light candle, and I made a cup of tea.
Okay.
So you do like an origami folding thing, and you make a little pot out of the paper, and the water stops the paper igniting.
Right.
Okay. So it's very basic, and the water does not get to boiling point, but it's warm.
But you have dye and paper tasting tea.
It's better than being cold, but it's one of those things that you can play with, figure out how it works. Look, that's a worst, as far as I'm concerned, that's a worst case scenario.
Yes.
If I'm ever in a situation where I have to actually use that, then the popo has really hit the fan.
Yeah. But you're talking about tea light candles. There's a lot of bain-maries and stuff like that for keeping food warm.
Yes.
That they have either a little alcohol burner or some tea light candles underneath.
Yeah.
I had a little teapot brewer thing, So you put the tea light candle in, put your pot on top, and you brew yourself a...
Well, that's where it came from, yeah.
Yeah. And coming to level 2 now, fire.
Yep.
You can use fire for cooking.
Oh, hello.
We're South African.
We're South African. It's called a braai, dude.
Yeah. But there's other types of cooking other than braaiing.
Yeah.
But you can't use your fancy, let's say, glass. No, not even glass, because the Pyrex is pretty good. But say, for argument's sake, your nice Tefal with a pot with
Teflon lining,
coating and stuff. I use that on a fire uncontrolled. That pot doesn't exist very long.
Yeah.
And so you kind of need to think in terms of, in cooking, your cooking implements also need to be able to handle the different ways of cooking.
Yeah. So the survivalist guys, if you go onto the YouTube channels and stuff, they are forever going on about the cast iron skillet and the Dutch oven. Here, it's the potjie pot and a Dutch oven, flat bottom pot.
Yeah, our potjie pot, we call it a potjie pot. It's flat or round.
Yeah.
So that's how we...
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
I've done everything from make a standard potjie in my pot to roast chickens in them, do a full roast meal in them, chicken, potatoes, veggies, bake bread in my flat bottom pot.
Yeah.
They really are versatile.
I'm trying to get one of those Baduri style pots. It's a spun metal. So it's like you get your pans that are blue steel, so it's not a cast iron, but it's still steel.
Yes.
So you have to treat it the same as cast iron.
Okay.
It's just a whole bunch lighter, because most of the guys that buy cast iron stuff, they got a bit of strength behind them, but their partners aren't always able to use those cooking implements.
No, they get heavy. A full number 3 potjie pot, if you're making a good old potjie in it, that weighs close to 10 kilos.
Yeah, it's 3 kilos of water in it if it's only got water in it.
Yeah.
And
so
number
that's
8,
about 5-6 kilos, yeah.
And a number 8 pot.
No, those pots get big, dude.
Yeah. So a number 3 pot, how much water?
It's about 5 liters, yeah.
Yeah, it's 5 kilos of water.
Yeah.
The number 8 is probably about 10 plus.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't really measured them, but the weight is a thing. I know for my wife as well. Even when you get a fancy scan pan, that pan is heavy.
Yeah.
The only reason I went for the stainless steel pan is because when people like to wash with scouring pads and stuff, it does my head in when they mess with the coating on my cast iron.
Okay.
So I use my cast iron when I want to, but the stainless steel is for normal use.
I recently got myself, they call it a casserole dish or casserole pot, but it's an enameled cast iron.
Yes.
I haven't cooked with it on an open fire yet. I've cooked with it in the oven. And for cooking, for heat retention, it works the same as a cast iron pot. Just a lot easier to clean, and you don't have to worry about treating it.
Except for the edges. You can still
chip the edges, yeah.
But it can still pick up rust on the rims.
Okay, I must check that out. Thanks.
If you're going to cook with that on an open fire, probably the best is, where you get, it's not a grid, but it's like a flat piece of metal.
Yeah.
So you can actually stand on top of it, so you have indirect
heat, yeah.
Because all that enamel is, as far as I know, is a melted glass.
That's it, yeah.
So you can damage it by heating it too quickly or hitting it, and so you chip it. So,
but yeah, they work really well, and it's like I said, it's a lot easier to clean.
Yes.
And you don't have to do the whole oiling treatment business that you do with a cast iron pot.
You just cook in it, clean it like so that it's hot water, and then dry it so that while it still has heat, it loses all this moisture on the surface.
Okay, you're teaching me stuff.
I've cooked a bit. I've thought about the subjects as well, but
yeah. Okay, that's really interesting.
Where did we leave off? Oh, fire.
Yeah, we're on fire still.
yeah. We got onto other stuff as well.
When it comes to cooking, we like food. Okay, so
yeah, I like food.
I like food a lot.
Grade 3 or level 3, it's gonna sound to some people as like, huh? But a gas cooker, yes, it is fire, but it's different. It's infinitely more controllable and generally doesn't get as hot, so you're not gonna damage your cooking things that easily. Yeah.
So I use gas at home. We've got an electric stove or an electric hob, but I prefer to cook with gas. I find that you can control your temperature a lot better with a gas stove. And I've literally got one of those cast iron 2-burner.
Like the portable ones.
The portable one, yeah. It's a low pressure system, so it's got a regulator and a 9 kg bottle. I'm only cooking for 2 of us, and we're only cooking once a day, really. A 9 kg bottle lasts me on average 3 months.
Nice.
So very economical. That works out at about 100 Rand a month for gas.
Yeah.
So it's about 320, I think, to refill a cylinder at the moment. And I've got 3 9 kg cylinders. So at any time, I could go technically 9 months of cooking without having to stress about cooking. I've got more facility for cooking than I've got food to cook at the moment.
Yes. But what's nice about that is if there's a gas shortage, you're not like the guys that have one bottle that are completely stressed not having a way to cook.
Well, the thing is, what happens if your bottle runs out? Now you've got to run to the gas shop to go get another bottle. So I started having 2 bottles.
And it always runs out in the evening when you're cooking.
Yeah, so I started with 2 bottles, having an exchange bottle.
Yes.
And then I went and got a 3rd bottle just to have backup, because I'm a prepper.
Yes. I also have got gas stove. I've got an electric oven gas stove, and we last 2 months. And I don't have electric kettle, so we even boil water on that.
Okay.
And so we do all that. The only time you suffer is if you're doing long cooks. So I've got a slow cooker so that it uses way less electricity.
Yeah.
And it's great to have, because when the power is off, you can cook. Except when I was visiting a friend who had a gas cooker, and he had one of these fancy idiot things that when the power is off, the gas doesn't work because it's got an electric safety shut-off. Exactly. I mean, in South Africa, why would you have a... It beggars belief, really.
That's it's nice having these fancy cooker tops and stuff like that, but I'm all of the belief that keep it simple, stupid.
Yes.
Like there's different with the gas cookers. Like there's different versions. You get like I said, I've got the 2-plate or the 2-ring, and you get a 3-ring. That's for low pressure.
Yes.
With the cast iron ones. KDEC does a low pressure version as well, which is more the camping style.
Most of them are low pressure. They're 2.8 bar.
Then your other option is a burner straight onto a KDEC style cylinder.
Yeah.
Now that's what they call that's a high pressure system. So you've got a little brass jet in the base. They get hotter faster, but they use a lot more gas.
Yeah. And
I've got the KDEC cylinder as a backup in case I run out of everything.
Yes.
Also, if I go camping, it's a lot easier to take a KDEC cylinder with.
Yeah.
And the nice thing with having the KDEC or the Elva type cylinder is that you've got a gas cooker, a gas lamp, a skottel braai, all these different attachments that can go onto that. And you can basically have a little kitchen set up with all the add-ons, extension arms and dual arms that they've got nowadays.
Yes.
And from one small bottle, you can set up a full little campsite off one of those, and they really, really are nice. A little bit pricey, but worthwhile investing in.
What I've done with mine, I've also got the reason why I went 9 kgs for the home thing is it's the weight my wife can move easiest, and the kids can move easiest.
Yeah,
because we're big strong men, we can pick up anything, but
until you can't.
Until we can't, but we also have to think about everyone else.
Yeah.
And a 9 kg you can stick in the boot of your car quite easily.
That's it.
You can move it around quite easily. And it's the biggest size you're allowed in the house. So I don't like my gas being outside because sometimes the bottles go missing.
Yeah.
And and what I've also done is I've got adapters that go from the bullnose regulator style to the Kodak style that you're talking about. And vice versa. Yeah. So it's, and the other thing too, you're talking about cookers. You know, these portable ones, they look like a little case that take the small gas one.
Oh, the little black plastic suitcase, yeah.
Yeah. They're also nice to have because you can throw it under your seat, take it to the beach and cook on it. But also, they normally have a self-igniter. So it's, if you want to quickly, the power's out, you quickly want to make yourself a cup of coffee, you can just switch it on quickly
with piezo ignition, yeah. So there's so many, when it comes to gas cooking, there's so many options. Hikers have been using gas stoves as long as they've been around. So whether it's a little primer stove that you can carry, there's always an option for cooking safely.
Yes.
That you can do indoors without having to light a fire indoors. Ideally, you don't want to be cooking in your fireplace if you've got one. But even with that regard, the guys that have got one of these cast iron fireplaces, you could still, that heats up enough that you can you've got a pot or...
Yeah, I've cooked on my cast iron. I've cooked soup, I've cooked stews. What's nice as well, you like drinking coffee, you fill your kettle up, put it on there, and it might not come to the boil, but the water gets so hot that when you're ready to have your coffee, you stick it on your gas, 20 seconds later it's boiling.
Oh, nice.
So
yeah,
it saved gas there.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, and we're coming down to cooking. You know, we were talking about level 4 in power is a generator when fuel was there and money was there, but that also allows you to cook. So you have full access to whatever you used to use before, but you only do it while the Jenny's running and while you have fuel.
So that's something I've never done. I've never used a generator and cooked at the same time. Does something with the element not pull a lot more power?
It does, but you have to look at what size Jenny you're using. You know, if you're running a 9 kilowatt Jenny and you're drawing, say you're refreezing your fridges and deep freezers and you're drawing 1 kilowatt of power or 2 kilowatts of power, and you're going to put your induction hob on and it's drawing 2 kilowatts of power. There's pointless running a 9 kilowatt or 8 kilowatt Jenny so that you're only doing your fridges and freezers.
Yeah.
You want to do a few other things. You want to make the fuel worthwhile.
Yes. Okay. That makes sense. I hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah. So obviously you don't want to start a Jenny to charge your cell phone. But while your Jenny's running, you better be charging your cell phone and your power bank and everything else that you can possibly do.
Yeah.
So that you still have backup power when your Jenny's off.
Yeah. In that same vein, with a full solar system, running anything with an element or something like, say, for instance, an air fryer, does that not drain your batteries faster?
Yes, it does. But that said, if you've got a full solar system, and this is where it comes to cooking level 5, still, it's a full solar system.
Yeah.
And especially if you do your stuff during the day and you time it right. So you're doing your laundry during the day, your geezer's heating during the day, and you're cooking. The majority of your cooking is during the day. You're using it off solar panel.
Yeah.
So your inverter is set that firstly, it draws off the solar primarily. And if your solar can't handle the draw, then it'll start tapping off the batteries.
Okay.
So you can set it up like that first and primarily. And if your batteries are full, why not? Use your air fryer. Obviously, you can't run a 2 kilowatt or 3 kilowatt air fryer on a 1 kilowatt inverter because it just won't work. So you got to scale your system. But we're talking about a full system.
You're talking, I was just going to say, you're talking where you've got plenty of battery, you've got the proper inverters.
Yeah, so the guys you're looking at a 8 to 15 kilowatt inverter system and enough battery power that it can last you days of overcast.
So I know of a farm in the hills near us here. He's fully off grid. He's got separate solar for the house and for the farm.
Yes.
And he's running 58 panels just to pump water from the river up to the pasture for the cows.
Yeah.
58 panels. So panels aren't that expensive, but he's not just running the pumps during the day. So he's still got the inverter, he's still got batteries tied into all of that. He's not running directly off sunlight. So I'm just thinking the size of, look, he's pumping constantly, he's replenishing dams and that sort of thing. That's a massive system.
Well, no, not really. He's doing hydro and stuff. For our factory that the business I work for, we looked at a system. You know, it's a 5 million rand system, 400 panels, 250 kilowatt or kVA inverters. I think it was 2 or 3 400 kilowatt batteries, 700 volts on the thing. If we didn't have the panels, if we put that system in, it would run our factory for 4 hours.
Okay.
And with the panels in, it will push, sunshine. It'll last us through the day, and that's a pretty big system, and that's still not a massive system.
Yeah, and like I said, that was close to what, 5 million.
Yes.
There's not that many people that can afford that for home use.
No, but I mean, dude, for that you'd run yourself and all your neighbors.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so, and but then you start again. You have to get into the legalities of everything and make sure you get people that are able to install a system like that accurately and legally and register it properly and give you a COC for your system. Otherwise, you get nailed by the various governments or provincial governments. Yeah. So that leaves us at heating now, and I know it seems a bit because we've just been talking about cooking.
Yeah.
But heating and cooking, while very similar, the one is food and the other is mainly people.
Yeah.
And you don't want to cook the people. Yeah. So heating stage 0 or level 0 is basically freeze your extremities off.
Okay. So you're saying you've got nothing. You've got no shelter.
Well, yeah,
or even indoors. It's now July, end of July, and it's still damn cold here where we are, and we're indoors, and I've got no heating running at all, and it's not quite. Our breath isn't quite misting, but we're close.
Well, you're very reliant on your environment, like you sitting there in a robe and a whole bunch of other stuff. I've got a wool jersey on, and I'm actually pretty all right. But any colder than this, and it would be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, minimal planning would be, we got a blanket.
Yeah. Or extra clothes, yeah.
Yeah, extra clothes, blanket, that type of stuff. Then basic planning would be, again, fire, or you could do one of these, like tea lights I've seen a guy take terracotta pots and
yes, I've seen that. I still want to try that.
Yeah, puts tea light in, and what it does is actually makes the pot hot and radiates
heat.
Yeah. And then gas heater.
Yeah. So again, I'm going to jump in a little bit here with gas. You get different types of gas heaters.
Yeah.
You get the classic type that we've all seen, where it's quite a boxy thing, where the cylinder sits in the back and it's got 2 or 3 panels on the front that heat up. And then you go to, again, the KDAC one. They did something years ago, I don't know if it's still available, called a safari heater.
Yes.
Which was designed for camping, which I never saw the point of it, because if it's that cold that you need a heater, start a fire if you're camping. Okay, not always available. But that's basically looks like a little satellite dish with a ceramic in the center of it that heats up.
I've seen one with it looks also like a round dish, but it's got like a boss in the middle, like a raised section that the gas comes out.
Yeah.
And they work well. They're heavy on gas.
Fairly inefficient.
But you can put them in a tent.
I don't like using gas in tents.
Versus a fire in a tent.
Either way, yeah.
Yeah. So even indoors, they're not fuel efficient. The ceramic heaters, the big boxy style ones, are still way more efficient than those camping ones.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's what you do. You don't really get most people talk about electric fire, but you don't really get them in battery format.
Yeah.
So you could go possibly 12-volt, like electric blankets, that type of thing.
Are there 12-volt electric blankets available?
I think they make a lot of stuff for camping.
Okay, yeah.
But you get these weird and wonderful things. Some of them are on Temu. Some of them probably kill you, but anyway.
Yeah.
So level 4 is obviously full access to whatever heating you've got while the Jenny's running.
Okay.
Again, coming back to the Jenny. And while the fuel is running, that type of stuff. In gas heater, just to take a step back, you could always do possibly like an alcohol burner or something like that. It doesn't have to be gas, but some type of fuel burner.
So when it comes to general heating as a rule, I think it's easier to heat a small area than it is a big area. So close unnecessary doors.
Yes.
You don't need to heat the bathroom. So close the door to the bathroom, or just heat the bedroom, or as long as you've got, whenever we're talking about gas, please make sure you've got good ventilation.
Yes.
Anything that burns is going to be using up oxygen. It's going to be releasing carbon dioxide and maybe even carbon monoxide, which are both deadly. So make sure you've always got some form of ventilation accessible.
Especially like gaps under your doors. People want to close the gaps on your door.
Yeah.
the heavy gas, carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide, are heavy, so they sink.
Yeah.
So they'll be able to flow out under the gap in the door, but not if you go and put a towel in front of it, because it's a bit breezy.
Yeah.
So there's ways to make a smaller place, instead of, like, if you go in the bathroom, yes, you're in a smaller room. But if you're in a lounge, but you have your couches in such a way that the draft doesn't reach you, but there's still a bigger area, you can have yourself closer to the heat source.
Yeah, so a couple of years back when Texas had that big freeze, a lot of people died when the power went off because their entire grid collapsed.
Yes.
I think they were down for nearly a week in some areas. And most of the deaths that occurred was through people using gas heaters incorrect.
Okay.
Like you said, they were blocking off doors. There was no ventilation. And people literally smothered and suffocated to death. They didn't die from cold. They died from incorrect use of equipment.
Yeah. Well, with gas and fire and any of your fossil fuel burners, cookers, heaters, proper ventilation. You need to have it.
It's essential.
Now, you can be using cow dung to cook with. Okay, you still need proper ventilation.
Yeah,
because otherwise, anything that is competing with you for oxygen
is bad.
It doesn't matter who wins the race. You both lose, because the fire will go out and you'll be dead. Yeah, because you both will be out of oxygen.
I know we might be harping on about this a little bit, but safety first, guys.
Yeah.
I'd rather wrap myself in an extra blanket than suffocate to death, personally.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And, coming back to take a step even further back to, we talk about fire. I've been at different camps and events, and I've got it for myself as well. Inside of a washing machine.
Yeah.
It's got all those holes.
Yeah.
You make fire inside of it. It uses way less wood, and it radiates heat outwards. And if you're sitting in a circle around it, the heat is going out the top, yes, but the radiant heat is coming out and heating you.
Yes.
And because you have a circle, you're actually trapping that radiant heat onto each person, so you're not losing it outwards.
Yeah.
Anything where, if you're in a cold environment and you can have a thermal mass that you're heating up. So, say for argument's sake, you have a fire outside, you put yourself a giant pot of water on it and heat that water while you're getting warm. You could take that big pot of water, put it in your room, and it radiates.
It'll carry on radiating heat.
You can heat up stones, you can heat up bricks, you can heat up a lot of different things that you can move in, obviously not burning yourself.
Yeah.
And then that radiates heat outwards. You can do it, heat the ground or rocks, and you bury them under where you're going to sleep, clean off the ground, move the fire one side and sleep on top of that, and it radiates heat outward. So there's safe ways to heat yourself, but it requires a little bit of thinking. Yeah. And you have to remember, safety is you're number one. You're responsible for your own safety and those around you.
So, and then another thing is, like, in a house, you're going to lose most of your heat through large glass windows. So having good quality curtains will help trap heat in. But if it is particularly cold, you can even go one step further and take something like a survival blanket, one of those mylar sheets.
Yes.
And cover your windows with that mylar sheet, because that will then reflect any heat back into the room, and it'll stop you basically bleeding heat.
Yeah. But that said, if it's only you in the room, rather use the mylar blanket
on yourself.
Yeah, because then you trap your own body heat and you could warm yourself. I've seen a guy called Zachary Fowler on YouTube, and he does this ice fishing, and he goes hammock camping, and he has this little tea light candle in the terracotta things underneath where he's sleeping, his hammock is. And it's not close to him, it's not right up against him, but just that little bit of heat makes a massive difference.
Yeah.
And so anything that can raise your chance of surviving extreme cold is beneficial. And most of the stuff we experience in South Africa, unless you're in Drakensberg or playing outside in the dead of night in some of the places like Sutherland, you're not really getting exposed to extreme cold, life-threatening cold. If you're in Sutherland and you're dealing with those minuses, you should be more aware and more prepared before you get there that it's going to get that cold.
Definitely, yeah. Look, the coldest I've ever been was -18 inside a tent.
Okay.
It was extreme. It was on the Matroosberg near Ceres, and we went up specifically to do rock and ice rescue training. Yes. We knew there was going to be snow. We knew it was going to be cold, so we had the correct equipment with us. But even we got caught unaware by the severity of the storm that hit us.
Yeah.
Within 2 hours, our dome tents were covered. It was
in snow.
In snow.
Oh,
It was
nice.
extreme, and it was very cold.
yeah.
I have never been that cold in my life. But we had the correct equipment, we had the correct training, and we all got through it. It took us an extra day to get off the mountain, but we got through it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we're going to talk about this exact scenario when Walter comes round to do the first aid, because he was the one that took me up that mountain.
Okay.
But yes, you can lose body heat rapidly. So having correct clothing and again correct training if you are outdoors is essential. But something as simple as putting a beanie on, or even just a normal hat, a peak cap, can save body heat. Having a good pair of socks. Nobody likes having cold feet. So having warm feet, just apart from a comfort level, it does help you preserve body heat.
Yeah. I've also, one guy I was listening to on YouTube, he was saying minus 40 degrees Celsius Fahrenheit is the same temperature. But he says dry, cold like that is way more survivable than minus 18 and high humidity. Is that you lose your body temperature way faster when it's damp and wet and humid than if it's that dry, cold.
Wind chill. Outdoors, wind chill will kill you faster than anything.
Yeah, the group that I'm involved with, our one leader, he pushes survival bag. A survival bag has so many uses, but specifically if all else fails, you and your sleeping bag climb into that survival bag. So it stops it retains heat, but it also stops that wind from pulling you
sucking the warmth out of you. Okay, where are we? Off on a tangent again.
the heat, if we coming back down to level 4, again, full access while the Jenny's running.
Yeah.
So your Jenny makes heat as well. It's depending if your Jenny is vent to the outside, your exhaust is venting out.
Very essential.
It does get hot, so it helps if you're really needing heat. But ultimately, you have full access to whatever your house has or wherever you are if you've got that Jenny running.
I must say, thinking of that, I did cringe watching that movie The Day After Tomorrow, where they end up inside a kitchen of a restaurant and he lights all the gas burners, but they've got like zero ventilation, and then he still builds a tent inside the kitchen. Ventilation, guys, I can't say this often enough. If you're using a generator indoors, make sure it's vented outside. If you're using gas, make sure you've got a window cracked open or breathing under the door. Just, you don't want to not have that.
But also, I mean, he had the gas cracked open, but they don't put anything on it. Get all the heavy pots you can, stack everything you can on top of that gas, so you're heating a thermal. Yeah. You make your thermal mass.
Yeah. So luckily, I don't think anybody in South Africa has had to get to that extreme during load shedding yet. I'm sure we would have heard that one on the news.
Yeah, no, we haven't got to that as far as I know. But then, I'm not that well traveled. And so anyway, level 5 on heating is again full solar. Completely off the grid.
Underfloor heating.
Oh, yeah.
Geyser going. You can have 2-hour-long showers.
Watching your neighbor shivering, that type of stuff,
Waving through the window.
Yeah, double pane. No, when you come to that point, you have your double pane glass and all that type of stuff, keeping the heat inside your house. No, that's the way to do it. Planning ahead. But it's, all these things that we've been talking about is, when we talk about being a prepper, everybody, again, thinks of food and guns, or maybe guns and food, whichever way they're leaning. But everything we as South Africans do, and people around the world, to plan ahead is prepping.
That's it.
Getting your house up so they can run without reliance on a grid, whether it's water or heat, cooking, power, lighting, food, first aid, sanitation, all that type of stuff is prepping.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, dude, I think we've covered a lot today. That was really cool.
Do you wanna try sanitation?
No, I think we'll leave it.
Oh, for another day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, sanitation is a subject that we can do an entire episode on. It's a smelly subject. It's not a fun subject, but it is one that a lot of people don't think about, especially when it comes to long-term grid down.
Yeah. It's a subject that people like to put out of their minds because, you call a plumber if your toilet's backed up. You don't deal with it yourself.
That's it.
And so most people live in a world where they don't understand how that works. And it is one of the vital things because whatever food you put in comes out processed. And that processed food has to go somewhere.
It has to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for our next episode, I'm hoping we're going to be having our interview with Walter from Wild Medics.
Okay, nice.
He is meant to be coming down the side of the garden route. Walter, I know you listen. We're waiting for you. And then after that, I think we might dive into the sanitation episode.
Yeah, I think water and sanitation and even first aid, food, it all ties together because, it's hard to be sanitary without proper clean water, and it's hard to do food without water, and first aid you need a lot of if you're not going to be sanitary.
Anyway, Ben, it's been awesome seeing you again, and I will see you next week.
I will definitely be seeing you, and it was lovely seeing you again.
Cool. Cheers, dude.
Cheers. Keep well.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Off Grid Survival. For more info and updates, feel free to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Off Grid Survival ZA. That's it for now. We will see you next time, and always remember, be prepared.